Hello Flosstube, my name is Rachel Mayberry and this is Five Oaks Farm Stitching. This is my first Flosstube to film. I am so excited. I have been wanting to do this for a long time. I've enjoyed watching Flosstube for a couple years now and just felt motivated to do this myself because I love seeing what everyone else is working on, and it has been such a joy to watch other channels and get ideas to gather patterns that I want to work on or finishing ideas. It's just been really great. So a little about myself. I am a Texan, born and raised. We live on a small farm here that has been in my family since 1880. And I'm raising my kids here. They're the 8th generation to grow up on this farm, and we really love it out here. We love the country, we love the view, we love the land, and we love watching our kids grow up. We have 3 high schoolers. We have a freshman, a junior, and a senior this year. They all play sports. Our oldest is in a band that travels around and plays in Texas, and we absolutely love just being mom and dad and supporting them and going to all their games, hanging out with them on the weekends. They are a great joy in our life. So my husband is a firefighter and I work in children's ministry, and on the side I have a lot of crafty hobbies. So cross stitch is one of them. I also quilt and crochet. I learned to quilt, crochet, and cross stitch living out here over the past 10 years that we've been out here, and I am obsessed. I remember watching Flosstubes and thinking, I will never have that many patterns or that many projects going at once, and here I am with binders and binders full of patterns and piles of whips that I'm excited to share with you guys today. So I'm so glad you're watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so we're gonna jump right into fully finished projects. I have a handful of those that I worked on this year. All my finishing was this year. It still hasn't been very long that I've been cross-stitching, so I had some things I did myself at home and others that I took to the framer. So the first one is Meet Me in the Pumpkin Patch, and this is by Cherry Hill Stitchery. And I did this on a 14 count Prairie Grain by Witchell Imports, and it's DMC threads. And this was really fun to stitch. It was pretty quick and simple, and I actually just found out yesterday that there's like a sister pattern to this called Maple Hill that they have as well that I will need to order so I can make a set that I can display in the fall. So I love that. That was easy. The next one is one of the first things I finished and the first thing I ever fully finished, and that is this little Summer Petite. This is by Plum Pudding Needle Arts. I did this on a 14 count Aida. They do have summer, fall, winter, and spring. I think I have all the patterns in my stash. This is the only one I've worked on so far. And I just bought this little stand-up wood, probably said something about dogs or teaching on it at Hobby Lobby on clearance. And so I just mounted this on foam board and cut up some flowers and hot glued them to the top. And this was very quick. I definitely will finish all in the series. So that was really fun. The next one is Christmas Alphabet, and that one is by Primrose Cottage Stitches, 14 count Aida, DMC threads. This was super quick and also very fun. I love that little tree with the snow, and I loved the striped border. There's a little bit of back stitch there on the presents, but this was really fun. Little snowman over here. And then to go along with that, I stitched Christmas Trees and Stitching Please. Same thread, same Aida. Finished it the same so I can hang it on a tree probably. This one I changed a little bit. There was something different on one side, and I loved these little spools with the trees, so I did 2 and took out whatever was right here. I'm not really sure, but I changed that a tiny bit. And so those will hang together this year for Christmas. And those were also just some wood boards from Hobby Lobby that they had in the Christmas section last year. I think they were like $2.50, and then they were 40% off. So this was my first project to be framed. This is Christmas Morning by Samplers and Stitches. I did this on a 14 count Aida DMC threads. That's gonna be pretty frequent on all these finishes. These were some of the first things I ever stitched, and my fabric came from Hobby Lobby. Grabbed the thread and went to work, but I did get this one framed. When my husband saw me working on this and asked how long it had taken me, he said, well, that one's gonna need to go in a frame. And so that was really sweet. And we went together and picked this frame and got the museum glass on there, and I will get to put it up for Christmas for the first time this year. So I'm excited about that. And I have notes down here. I had to write down everything I wanted to say or talk about, or hopefully remembered where I got everything and what came from where. So if you wanted to do it, you could too. So this one is Wicked Stitcher by Silver Creek Samplers. This is 14 count Prairie Grain by Witchell Imports. And I had just been given all of my grandmother's DMC threads in a box. And when I saw this, I wanted to get started, and I just pulled colors from her stash that I had been given and went to work. And I love it. I love that she has her little cross stitch project in her hand sitting there. And the scissors. The scissors were fun. And their lettering is always just so unique. I love how they do their lettering. A few that I have finished but not fully finished. This one is Liberty Street. This is by Plum Pudding Needle Arts on a 14 count Oatmeal Aida. DMC threads. Definitely will probably put this in a little frame and just frame it myself. That was fun. I love the flag. This was a very quick stitch. Happy Fall Acorn by Robin Pickens. I still have this kitted up in a bag because it was so fun to stitch and finish that I figured this would be a really nice gift to have just tucked away for people. And so I could mount it and make a little hanger and have an easy fall gift if I needed one. So I'm stitching a few more of these. And the last one, this is by Waxing Moon Designs. The pattern I should have pulled, but it's called Santa House Trio. And there are 3 patterns. You can stitch alone or all in a row. They're all Santas. This one comes out of the chimney. The other ones are with a reindeer and then looking up at a Christmas tree. And I'm sure I will finish all of these. This is one of the first things I worked on, and I didn't fully really understand how much I needed to look at all the floss on the fabric at this point. So I wish that the white snowflake corners didn't wash out so much into the fabric that I chose, but we're gonna finish it and hang it on the tree as a little Christmas ornament either way. So those are really cute. I love Waxing Moon Designs. There's something about them that's kind of nostalgic about the way they're stitched up. They kind of make me think of things I saw when I was younger with cross stitch that maybe my family was doing. Okay, on to the giant stack of whips. I was kind of floored looking through these because I didn't know I had so many, and also some of them were so close to being done, and I'm not sure why I didn't finish them. So the first one that I'm gonna show you, this is Spooky Typography by Pine Mountain Designs, and I was almost done with this and I had no idea. I was so close. So when I pulled it out, I realized I was only missing the little banner that hangs right here and a star that hangs in the letter C. Now on the pattern, the banner is actually little pieces of felt that are stitched down on the outside, almost kind of like applique. And I haven't decided if I want to do that or if I want to kind of figure out how I could cross stitch the banner in there and not add the felt pieces. I haven't decided yet. We'll see, but I'm so close. If I could just pick how I'm gonna finish it, that could be done and up this year for Halloween. The next one is Plum Pudding Needle Arts, Bits of Blue. And this I've been working on for a long time, and I don't know why I set it down and didn't finish. I was making it for my husband and I's 18th wedding anniversary, and now we've had our 20th, and I need to finish it. So I was gonna put the year that we were married in there, and it says Bits of Blue, and it had a really pretty blue thread, but I just felt like this would match our house better, and so I did green, and I just need to fill in that little top part with the heart and the year and a little bit more of the vines and leaves, and that one would be finished too. Oh, and I was going to show you, I've been making little bags since I started cross stitching, and they've evolved in many ways because I also am still semi-new to sewing. And so I learned to quilt a few years ago and had never made anything but a blanket until I started cross stitching and wanted to make some bags to put my projects in. And so the little spooky typography was in this little zipper pouch that I made. And then Bits of Blue, I did not actually make this. My friend made me this as a gift, and I have that in there, and I just think that's so cute how she stitched the cherries on with the cherry fabric. She's incredibly talented. The next one is Little House Needleworks Peace on Earth. And this is also one of the first projects I started, and I did not get a really long way with it. So I no longer stitch on fabric like this. This is the 14 count oatmeal Aida again, and it's very stiff, and I have changed a lot of the way that I cross stitch, even just over the short time that I've been working on projects. So I started with a hoop because that just seemed the easiest. And I remember putting my first project on this fabric in a hoop and just staring at it thinking, how do women put the needle in the back side of this in the right spot? Because I have no clue how I would ever do that. And so I remember for probably a month of cross stitch, I would turn my whole project over and go through and turn it back over and come up. And then finally, it was like a sixth sense of learning how to do it. And now it's so easy to just hold the project and go into the correct hole on the back side without even thinking. But when you're brand new, there was just no way my brain could handle it other than flipping it upside down. So I don't use a hoop anymore. I don't really like to use the stiffer fabric. I tried a Q-snap, and now I just stitch in hand. Everything I stitch in hand. I thought that was crazy when I first started. When I would see people doing that, I didn't know how they were getting their tension right and just really how they were doing that and working with everything and all the fabric. But the easiest way for me is now to stitch in hand, and I typically use a softer, more malleable fabric, and it works well, and I can stitch pretty quickly that way. So one day I'll finish this. That's a giant white house, one of two. Peace on Earth, Little House Needleworks, oatmeal Aida with DMC threads. And that is in this little bag that I love so much. So this is the Moda Flirt fabric, and I made this little zipper pouch with the little charm pack of squares and just stitched up and down. But my favorite part is this little patch here, because I've had this since I was in college 20 something years ago. And for some reason, one night I went to Walmart, I think, and bought some fabric and was like, I'm gonna quilt. And I cut that fabric up with scissors. I don't think I even measured it. And I started sewing squares together. I had no idea what I was doing or what you would do after you sewed the squares together. But I saved that fabric and I found these little squares, and they go so perfectly with this that I actually ended up buying, I think, 10 little charm packs so that I can make more of these, because I probably have 40 of these little people from the early 2000s that I can put on little bags like this. And so I'll be making a bunch of these. That's pretty special. This is another Waxing Moon Designs, and it is called Winter Sampler. I did this on a 14 count Aida with DMC threads. I'm not far from finishing this. I need to fill in the snowman and the little cardinal, and then there's a Christmas tree with some snow, which will be really cute. And I would love to put this up in January. I'm always sad when Christmas decor comes down. Everything feels kind of empty, and January can be kind of blah. And so to have something that could be winter decorations, I'm excited about that. And that is in this type of project bag, which will be the most common that you see today. These are the bags that I started making to put projects in. I did not follow a pattern. I just was in Fat Quarter Shop's mini charm pack club, and so I was receiving 4 of the mini charm packs every month. They were piling up, and I could make these bags with one little charm pack. So the front is one charm pack, and then I just pick a fabric on the back. And this one was my first time to really try to free motion quilt a design of some sort. It's not really a design, but it is me trying to figure out how to do something other than meandering or stippling my bags on the back. And so I was just zooming around, just trying to make a fun design and see if I could actually fill the space and not, you know, loop over my thread, and see what I could do. So it's kind of fun and cute. And that's what Mr. Waxing Moon Winter Sampler is in. This project I don't know that I will ever finish. I tried embroidery. My mom and dad bird, I thought it would be nice to make them these ornaments for their tree, and I don't know, embroidery is not coming as easy as cross stitch. And so I started this little guy. There's not much work done, but I might finish it for them. It's always fun to learn something new, but sometimes you just want to get back to what you know and can work on quickly. So we'll see. And this was in another project bag. I don't know the fabric name, but this is so cute because it has buttons and scissors and all types of sewing gear on it. I went, you know, across on this one. I always put this little loop here with this ribbon from Hobby Lobby. I figure one day I might put the tags on these and have what project is inside kind of hanging from here. So this is Plum Street Samplers This Happy Morning, and I am stitching this for Christmas. So I'm stitching this on a 14 count Aida. Probably need to put something behind this. I love the border. And the little flowers, kind of like buds berries, I'm not sure, but I love the colors that they picked. I haven't gotten super far on this. That goes all the way around. And so definitely I plan to stitch the border first and then work into the inside. And then I haven't started on this, but I bought these at the same time. I have the same fabric in the bag to do this one so that I can display them side by side. So this is This Joyous Season, also Plum Street samplers. And I think it's a lot of the same DMC colors, and so I think I have all of them in there ready to go in this little cowboy pouch that I love. This fabric was available 15 years ago when my youngest was a toddler, and I made something for him. It wasn't sewing, it was just I cut the fabric for something for his party, and Hobby Lobby still had it, so I made a bag out of it. And another Teresa Kogut. This is Magic of Christmas, one of her snowman charts. And I loved everything about this. I usually do whatever's the quickest, use fabric I already have, use thread I already have, but I wanted this one to look just like this. So I actually grabbed this fabric, although I don't know what it is. I know I got it from Fat Quarter Shop, but I didn't keep the label. And then this is the first project I ever used anything other than DMC. There are Classic Colorworks and Weeks Dye Works threads in this one, and it's so cute. I haven't gotten very far, but just what you can see of their little feet and their coats in the snow. So it's like the bottom of her jacket and his pants in their little shoes, and it's a lot of color changes. I usually don't leave my threads or even really use this technique of kind of pausing to move on to the next, but there's a lot of color changes in there, but it's worth it because it's already looking just so good on that fabric. So I'm excited about that. It says, "May the magic of Christmas be yours." And I'm on to projects that are no longer really in my handmade pouches. They're just plastic ones from Amazon. So this little one from Fat Quarter Shop, Little Loves, I started, and it's very small. It doesn't have to be small. Mine is very small. I am doing this on, let's see, 18 count lightly salted, not roasted by Bestitch Me. I was in their fabric club. I think they're neutrals fabric of the month for a long time, and I have so much of it and I am still using it. So hopefully I can finish this for Valentine's next year. And then inside of that bag too, I have this from Lavender Wings. This is Hitchin' a Ride, and I'm just doing this on a 14 count Aida. I don't think I'm using the threads, the called for threads. I think these are just from my stash. So it's kind of an interesting little Halloween chart. I changed the bottom just to hearts, but get that finished for Halloween as well. And then while hunting for the elusive Victorian house Judith Kirby number 9 that everybody wants, and I have not yet found, I'm sure there's a lot of people who haven't found it. I had it on eBay, I was bidding on it. It was actually house number 9, and I don't remember the number, but the other Halloween, Homemade on the Ridge, Maggie is stitching them together, I believe. And so like a Halloween scene, and I really want to do that, but I think I was outbid by like $100 for the 2 charts, and now I can't find them listed anywhere. So I did find this one while I was searching for house number 9. And I thought, well, maybe I could do a Christmas scene and do a couple of the Christmas houses. Maybe not on the same fabric, but frame them and put them side by side. So I just have a small start down at the bottom. Started with the fence, some of the snow and the greenery. So I'm just right down here. And that one is on, let's see, 16 count frost, also from Stitch Me. So I could probably get 2 or 3 of those houses. I know there's at least 2 other Christmas houses that I could get on that same fabric. And then this next one is from Pansy Patch Quilt and Stitchery. This is Faith Fall at Pansy Patch Manor. And I started this one a while ago. I bought like 10 fall charts that look pretty similar to this. I think the other ones are all Plum Street. And I loved this one because of the quilt blocks on the side. And if I could just get moving on it, I don't think what's left would take me that long. But I have just done the house and the wagon and the little sign that I'll need to backstitch the word pumpkins on. I'm excited to get to those little quilt block stars and then have kind of a fall scene going with all those patterns that I bought that are kind of similar. And then the latest one that I started was another Teresa Kogut, and this one is Let's Go Trick or Treating. So this is just recently her 2025 Patreon chart, one of them, and I just really wanted to start this one and just went and found fabric that would work. And my husband and I were at Hobby Lobby getting Midnight Watch framed and grabbed the floss. And so I just started down at her skirt and am working my way up on her. That moon is going to take a really long time. And these little checkers that I'm working on right now in her dress, but it's gonna be so cute. And then the bag that this is in is something I'm going to share, even though it's a mess, because what fun is it if you only share things that turned out well? This was my first time to make a vinyl project bag, and I sort of followed a pattern and also thought I could kind of piece it the way I always make my bags, which did not work with vinyl. And so I don't necessarily love it. I haven't bound, the binding is on the, so I sew my binding on the front with my machine, but I hand stitch my binding to the back. And so this is just a raw edge because I haven't wrapped the binding around and sewn it down. But I did this yellow fabric on the back. This is a glow in the dark fabric I got at our local quilt shop. And then I really wanted to try putting a magnet in the top of the bag. So I sewed this little patch with the magnet, and they're very strong and they're holding the needles on, but there's stuff showing here that shouldn't be showing. There's stitching showing that shouldn't be showing, and I'm gonna use it, and it's gonna be cute, and it's gonna fit its purpose. But it didn't quite turn out the way that I had hoped, because I wasn't patient and thought I could just put vinyl on like I do fabric, and it was very difficult putting that under the machine, and it would stick to my machine. So then I had to put stuff under the vinyl And most of you probably know this, but it was just a learning experience. So I don't know how soon I'll make another vinyl bag. And that is it for whips. And I'll move on to plans. So for future plans, I have a number of things that I kitted up and hadn't started. And so those are my plans for now, is to start what I've kitted. And in one bag, I have this Autumn Alphabet by Primrose Cottage. And those kind of go along with the Christmas alphabet that I did and the Christmas trees and stitching please. And so that's gonna be really pretty. I love the color of the letters. I have all those floss in there. And then Welcome Autumn. I have that in the same bag. Work on both of those. And then I kitted this up last year. I really wanted to start it in the spring, but I have Spring Quaker by Lila Studio. And that one will be a lot of work, but it will be so nice to have something to display in the spring. And so this is Sugar Cream Pie by Bestitch Me, 18 count. And I still need to prep all the threads, but it's a really pretty set of colors there. I haven't done a Quaker of any kind. And then another Teresa Kogut on Lunar, 18 count. Kind of a bluish purple, looks like a cold, perfect for a snowman. And this is called Row of Jacks. So a cute little set of fellas there. And then in my chicken bag, I had fun making this. It's very big, but the project in here is very big. I kind of scalloped the top. This is like leftover lace of my grandmother's from her sewing box, and just some Hobby Lobby chicken fabric. But this is a pattern that I really want to do because my grandmother from Maryland, she did all of these Ellen Stouffer, if I'm saying that right, designs back in like the 80s, early 90s. She stitched each of her samplers for my dad, my uncle, and my aunt. And I remember the one she made for my family hanging in our hall my whole life. It's still in my parents' house. And so this is one in the set. I have all of them that she made for her children, and I want to stitch them myself. So I think this pattern said it was from 1988. And so I have this, I have all the threads in here, and I even have some pretty, I don't know if it's vintage. I got it at a store, antique store that had a pile of floss and fabric and Aida cloth just for sale really cheap. And so I got this to put it on because it looks similar to what my grandmother stitched on back then. So that'll be 4 really big projects because there's 3 of those samplers, and then there's a Christmas that she did not do, not that I know of. And so I'm gonna do that one too. And then I have this kitted up for my daughter. She loves the beach. And so this is You Are My Sunshine by It's So Emma. And I did order the kit for this one, so I actually have the beach fabric to stitch on. And then all the DMC floss, I'll make that for her for Christmas or for her birthday next year. She loves the beach. And then the only other one that I have that I would like to start is a patriotic. I don't have any of those in my whips. And so this is Betsy's Horse. And I'm gonna kind of change the background, and I'm gonna do it on this honey from Bestitch Me. I think it'll look good with those reds and blues. And then I just have a couple more bags. I made this little bag after I'd made this wall hanging quilt, and there was a leftover block. And so I just turned it into a bag. It's kind of wrinkledy. I just washed it recently. I don't have a project in it. And then this bag, after my sort of fail with the vinyl bag, I looked up how to make pretty much the same project bag that I'd been making, but without having to put a liner in it. Because when I make them for myself, I was just sewing them together, turning them inside out and using them. But I wanted to sell some on Etsy, and so I wanted them to be much more finished on the inside, but without having to do a liner, because I like to quilt both the front and the back. I think it makes it a little bit sturdier, and so I didn't want to quilt it, then put a liner in it. And so I found this method where you just bind the edges. So it's basically the same bag I've been making, but bound on the outside, so everything's clean and neat. And so I just, same thing, I used one charm pack. This is Georgia fabric by Moda. And I sewed in a little, there's a magnet right here. And so you can't really tell, you can't see it at all, honestly, but let me grab the magnet off of this bag. I love to just throw my needle down to grab thread when I'm, need to change colors or I need a new piece of thread. And a needle minder, I love them. They're adorable. I would want to collect them. I think they're awesome. But when they're on my fabric, because I stitch in hand, they weigh my fabric down. And so like this, now I always have my bag right next to me. So I can just throw my needle right there and it'll mind my needle, and then put it inside when I'm done, but it's just quilted on the back. I hand stitch my binding in this like big stitch method. I just learned how to do that when I started quilting. And so I just find a cute thread and stitch like that, and then it's got the little tag I love to put on here. So I actually did list this on Etsy. That's my first listing, this bag, and I've got about 5 more over by the sewing machine that I'm going to do the same way. So I thought I would share a few things that I watch, read, listen to, podcasts. I love getting ideas from other people when they kind of share that at the end of their Flosstubes. So I definitely am constantly watching Flosstubes. My first Flosstubers that I ever watched, my absolute favorites, they'll always have a sweet spot in my heart because they're the first ones that I was attached to. And I went back, I think, and watched every single episode until I was caught up. And that was the Sable Stitchers. And so that's Lenny and Roberta. And I've been watching them for a couple years now. And then I always tune in when Maggie from Homemade on the Ridge has a new video. She is so creative and posts so many awesome patterns that she's stitched, but also incredible ways that she displays them. And she's just very crafty and creative. And so that's awesome. I just watched her latest one this morning. And then I also watch the Tattooed Stitcher. I love that one, and La La Dee Stitches. Those are like the 4 that every week or every time they have a new episode, I'm tuning in to watch. So I also watch Mandy in the Making every week. She posts multiple times. I would honestly say 70% of what my family cooks every week is from her videos. So she's not a Flosstuber. She does recipes that are easy for families, and her husband are so sweet, and it's a great channel. If you want some food inspiration, you need to go watch Mandy. And then I listen to A Quilting Life as far as podcasts, and Best Laid Plans, because I also love planning, paper planning. I'm a paper girl. I don't do a lot of stuff online as far as like calendars and lists. It all goes on paper. So I have an Erin Condren planner, and everything goes in there with cute stickers and as crafty as I can make it, because that's fun. And then a podcast that I absolutely love is the Holiday Special podcast, and that came out back in 2013. They're not making new episodes anymore, but he just really loves the nostalgia of holiday specials and just does a short recap of things like Charlie Brown, Rudolph, any Rankin and Bass, they had to be a special that aired like once a year as a TV special for holidays. And it's just so sweet to rehear the stories that I remember watching, like the shows when I was a kid, and the way he tells them. It's just a feel-good podcast, and it's holiday based. So usually around this time of year, I start tuning in to the old episodes of like Halloween specials, and then I listen through Christmas. So they're really great if you love that kind of feel-good, nostalgic stuff. I listen to it while I sew. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm so thankful that you joined me on this adventure. You can follow me on Instagram at 5 Oaks Farm Stitching, and also you can email me if you have any questions, or if you just want to reach out and chat. I would love to connect with you. My email is 5oaksfarmstitching@gmail.com, and I will also put a link at the end to Instagram, my email, and to my Etsy shop. I'll see you next time. Happy stitching!